Welcome to the Unstoppable Product Pioneer Podcast, the podcast for business and product leaders ready to turn vision into execution and misalignment into momentum. I'm Tamar Stoltz, and I'm on a mission to help you create clarity, streamline execution, and drive meaningful results. In each episode, I sit down with industry experts who share their insights, lessons, and wins, giving you the tools and strategies you need to turn alignment into your superpower. It's time to own your expertise, lead with clarity, and become unstoppable. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Unstoppable Product Pioneer Podcast. I'm so excited to be back today with another amazing episode. This episode has been in the making for a long time, and I'm super excited to have our special guest with us today. I want to welcome him to the stage. Welcome, Chris Bradshaw. I'm so excited that we're finally able to do this.
Me too. I mean, it's almost emotional. I know we've tried a few times to get this locked, and I appreciate your time to get this in. And I love the show, the energy, what it's about. So yeah, thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, no, thank you. For those of you who don't know, so Chris and I are part of the facilitation, AJ and Smart inner circle, I guess is the best way to describe it. And we've been part of this group now for a while together. And Chris actually is the one who inspired this podcast together with Phil Hornby, who was the first episode in the show. But Chris, you're the one that told me that I had to start making videos, and somehow the videos became a podcast. So you definitely get a lot of credit for this podcast. So it's an extra special honor to have you here. Wow. I came unprepared for that level of responsibility, but I appreciate the honesty. And, you do it so naturally and well. It just felt a shame for you not to be doing this. So yeah, I feel grateful that you've got me on here now to come full circle and talk about this product and everything else we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, I'll let Chris really introduce himself. But for those of you who don't know who Chris is the Global Product Strategy Director at Infinum. And he brings tremendous, 2+ years worth of experience, right, in the tech industry.
That's right.
Product strategy. 2+ decades worth. Is that?
Yeah, we'll say 20 years. Yeah, let's round it to 20 years. Yeah, you got it. So yeah, I've been around for a long time. But
Chris has been pioneering for a long time. But really just has really incredible experience. It's gonna be a fun show. I told Chris we try to keep these 30 to 35 minutes. I'm not sure how we're gonna possibly do that, but we're gonna do our best. Maybe we'll have a couple more the Chris series. But we'll start somewhere. We're excited to be able to do this. And so Chris, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, how you got to where you're at. Take it away.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so Chris Bradshaw again. Yeah, so I'm a strategy director at a large software company all around the world called Infinum. But to get to that milestone in my life, I had to go right back to 20 years where I started in IT, which is kind of that kind of dark, dry topic before digital was even a thing. Did engineering for a long time, coding, design, lots of the doing work. My 20s were doing and learning. I hit 30, I started to manage high-performing product teams when digital was a thing, when Web 2.0 was coming in. So all the social medias and social products. So I was building high-performing product teams then. At that point, I worked into music, quite fun, slightly crazy in terms of what it represented as a job, but it was loads of fun. And I jumped into the agency world, and that entailed me basically not just building teams, but building businesses. And that meant really running agencies for other people. Eventually, we bought lots of agencies and had a group of agencies that I CEO'd for a few years. Then left that job and became a founder, I guess you could say. So I founded my own agency, a venture studio. I worked for Techstars for a little bit doing startup events. So long story short is everything I've always done has had a lens of innovation and product and technology. But I think I've probably now in 20 years gone through every permutation of job, i.e. from doing the work to the vehicle you do it in, whether you're a founder or a manager or an employee. And that leads me to today, really. So I exited all my own ventures maybe 3 years ago. Did my own consultancy for a little while, met Infinum, who are launching their UK arm here in London. And myself and the managing director kind of started that up. And since then, I've just come on board as a product strategy director, which really is just where we are today. And that's really me helping basically just people work better together and align around innovation and what the innovation means to the company, to the people, and how can we essentially workshop that together to build that kind of like beautiful innovation roadmap and narrative that makes sense whilst embracing new technology like, Web3, AI, all the other buzzwords that you've heard in the latest news pieces. But yeah, so that's me in a whole nutshell. And I've been around for a while, so I've done a lot of this stuff. And like Tamar says, like my focus now is really on people. Like for me, the core win in innovation isn't so much the tech, it's the people working together at the start and understanding what that tech needs to do, and then driving that alignment, almost extreme alignment through the entire process of product management and build. Hence why we met together, right, in AJ and Smart's workshop and master kind of cohort. And so I just sit now at the intersection between technology, people, and businesses, and just try and translate needs into something that is coherent, and then basically generate a great plan that has, long-term benefit to my clients.
That's awesome. Well,
that's as short as I could make it in a few minutes. Yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. I feel like it's like the introduction to a book. As you were like explaining, like going through your journey, I was like reading, I was like in my mind, I like see like, like the doodle videos. I'm like watching like the chapters, like, okay, title, okay, product, okay. And then like all of your experience, like I literally was like visualizing there's so many incredible pieces there to unpack and so many amazing like points. And you said buzzwords, but they're huge topics, right? Like they're just like each one in and of itself is like, wow. So, that's awesome.
So true. Every chapter has definitely highs and lows part to it, I would say, for sure. Like, some of the journeys I've taken where on the face of it, like a LinkedIn face, you see the progression of what I've done. And it's like, oh, he ran this company, or he built that company, or he was the CEO of this company. Lots of things look great on LinkedIn and social media. Behind the scenes, there's tons of interesting stories, we'll say, that go with that, which is probably another podcast for another time. But but this is why I love talking about products, because products and innovation is kind of like the anchor to everything that I do, wherever it is in the world, whatever company I work in. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, like you said, we could, talk for months, but, I feel like, so for those of you who are watching, you see like Chris has a massive smile. For those of you who are listening, I'm sure it comes through on the audio too. But Chris, I feel like, with all the different things that you've done, all the positions and roles that you've filled, and just looking at your experience, I feel like as a whole, from an outsider's perspective, without going into the nitty gritty of each thing, I feel like there's a common theme and a pattern that exists in terms of what it takes for a person to be able to successfully accomplish what you have been able to. And the reason I called out, like, you're smiling and you're happy is because I feel like your positivity and like your excitement to problem solve and to just innovate in a way that makes things better for others, for, companies, for like, is a tremendous gift that you have. But I feel like there are so many skills when it comes to like, we call them the soft skills, but like skills in terms of leadership and management and listening, like active listening, and so many things where, the buzzwords, might be the product strategy and the AI and the tech but the words like, leadership and positivity and alignment and, those things that I feel like you truly embody. It's something that I feel like needs more attention because, I feel like a lot of people like you, like for me, like you're definitely a role model in that sense where it's like someone can come in and do a lot of the work that you've done. But I feel like one of the reasons that you're so successful is because of like the energy, the positivity, the excitement, the like real desire to make things better for people in this problem solving innovation space is really like, I feel like one of the big reasons I feel like that you've been successful. So can you talk to like, that's what I see as an outsider now. Like, I'm sure some of those things are just like who you are. That's like your, it's a gift. And that's just, like, you're like, okay, that's just like what I do. But like, is there like a point there that you could, talk to, or just, I don't know, just like talk out loud in terms of like, when you come to work, when you're dealing with a situation, like it's not all smiles and roses and fun, right? Like you said. So like, can you like just talk about, for people who are listening who are like, oh, I work in product strategy, but it sounds like Chris's product strategy job is like awesome and fun and cool, but like mine is maybe not as much. Or, if someone who finds themselves in whatever experience, because you have a lot of experience, right? And you've been in many different positions and roles. So
Yeah.
for people who are listening, who are like, okay, I can identify with the role or like the job description, but like, he sounds like he's like this awesome guy who like has it all together. Like, how does he do it? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's no like secret magical gift you have to have as such. I think it's definitely a mindset shift, and it's definitely less about, and I'm not going to get too like holistic here about pessimism and optimism, but I think it is that, like, I think innovation in itself has to be based in optimism. And I know product owners and managers listening to this might be like, well, we've got, reality checks to do here and scoping to do and things like that. But I think there needs to be a level of like pushing boundaries to go, if you're going to make something useful to people and useful to companies, and albeit the world, you kind of need to drive with that energy from a kind of a personal standpoint. Because when you're doing these, like, if I've run like a 5-day workshop, from like day 2 probably onwards, there's a slow decline of energy. And you need to be that person that's kind of like driving innovation and energy together to get the best outcomes and to drive the most alignment around like ideation and people working together. And I think you're right. I used to think back in the day, probably in my 20s, I used to think, right, I'm going to be the best coder, the best designer, the best marketer, the best everything. Classic, like naive 20, whatever it was. And the very hard skills, CV skills. And then I think by falling into leadership roles, and again, like when I said fall into it, I mean, the first leadership role was like I had to run a digital department of 16 musical brands, like festivals and venues. And I had to run every year, like tons of campaigns to support all 16 brands. It was quite a lot. So I really learned the meaning of pain, like launching, products and websites at like 2-3 in the morning for like a 7 o'clock on sale for like hundreds of thousands of people for tickets and stuff. So I've had that pain point. Even when I ran agencies, again, sounds cool. It is cool and whatever, but you have a lot of other pain points there from stakeholders and partners and shareholders. And, and I think going through the pain of trying so many things and not being afraid to try it, I know I said there wasn't like a secret or magic weapon for this, but I think maybe change and not being afraid of change is partly that. As in, I've just gone through these different roles and different vehicles. I've never been somewhere more than, let's say, 3 or 4 years, because I'm like, right, what's the next thing? And what's the new thing coming up? And I just dive into that, and I just believe in that's the way to go. And I believe that I can do it. And even if it comes with a bunch of pain, it's very rare, I think, the more I go through this kind of life, it's like very few things are as painful as you think. It's the things you don't see that come out of the blue. So I find myself just going into these roles fully optimistic and being, yes, we can do this thing. And I mentioned, like, I know AI is a buzzword in the minute. I'm very much focused on that because I know, like strategy, it will be in everything. Even if it isn't everything, it will be in everything. So we need to address that as much as we need to address human needs, product needs, business needs, all as one. So yeah, I mean, like I say, I love doing what I do, I suppose. I get a kick out of innovation. I suppose I have my highlights. Like I definitely am someone that drives forward motion to projects and tries to help customers do the same and push boundaries. I mean, I think the older I get, the more I'm less inclined to be like doing the kind of day-to-day operational work if I can, because I feel like the mindset of the two are very different. I think you can be great at either, but it starts to become a split when you have the innovator pushing forward and the operator trying to keep things sane and balanced. So yeah, for me, I just find that's my passion. And I think going back to the kind of mention of workshops and strategy, they're the initial vehicles you start with anyone, right? Humans working with humans and going, okay, we need to figure each other out quickly and what we're doing together quickly. Otherwise, this journey is going to be painful and long and maybe disappointing. And I've worked in projects years ago before workshops were a thing, before, scoping sessions were just like, here's a product, let's build it. It's going to be great. And it goes on, and everyone's energy and enthusiasm dies, the budget burns down. So for me now, it's very much about making that human experience in product and innovation as important as what it's going to do. And if someone talks to me and says, hey, we want to build like an Uber type, game-changing app, which everyone says at one point in their life, I'm sure. I'm like, okay, cool, but who are the people? Like, how are the people going to work with this? What's your team like? What do they need to do first? So I'm really conscious now. I think maybe that bleeds into leadership. Not that I ever profess to be like a great leader, but I'm just very aware of how human beings work in this space and how in innovation it can be quite frustrating to not be part of that journey correctly and just being brought in to do one micro task and not being involved in the conversation. So I really try my best to like harness people's collective intelligence, we'll say, together and keep that energy going forward. So I guess that's how I've fallen into the strategy role, as it were. Like I never trained back in the day to be a strategist. I've just, by proxy of working across all industries, all types of companies, and the most jobs in digital, I guess, or tech, it's a really good sweet spot where you can intimately understand how they work to then, again, harness the power of everybody's collective intelligence together and just create great products and try and have I hate saying the word fun time, a good time building these things, because not everything has to be super painful. It'd be tough, but sometimes it can be fun.
Right. That's awesome. And can we take a step back? And you might have said this, but what is your actual like training? Like, what did you actually start with?
Yeah.
Was it coding?
Yeah, I'm probably one of the few people in the world, at least in the UK, that actually did a degree in something they use in the job. So I did applied computer technology in business for 4 years at uni. Before that, I remember back at high school, I got told off a lot by teachers for I missed a few exams because I was coding websites instead. Back in the days when floppy disks were around. For a shout out to the floppy disk, who remembers those? So I've always had a lean on innovation in the internet space, I guess you could say. So I've done that from like teenage years through to my 20s education. So I guess engineer is my trade, but because of my journey, when I ran this group of agencies, we bought a UX agency back in 2006, 17, when UX was like in the ascendancies and design sprints came into play. So I have a very keen, sharp eye on design and user kind of interactions. I've also had like a marketing background because we had a marketing agency in there. So I've kind of just learned by doing. I'm not really a theorist in the sense. I just jump into something and go, let's just do it. So my qualifications are probably, I've learned that craft by either starting the business, running a team in that business, or, ran a consultancy of some sort. So that's kind of, my engineering background right through to today. So hopefully I'm less of a theorist and more of a practitioner because I've done the work in the past, more shape or another.
No, that's amazing. And the reason I'm calling that out is just because I've heard too many times, especially from engineers and from software development teams, it's like when we talk about so much of what you're saying, about understanding the people, right? Like human-centric design and just this type of the lens in which you're looking, out of it's. Oftentimes I hear them say, it's like, that's not how we think as software, engineers. It's not how we think as coders. Like, we're very focused on, whatever it might be, right? And like, that's, we don't have the ability to think that way, or that's just not how we do it, or that's just, and so I think it's really inspiring. And I think that there's so much that people can learn from how you've taken what was initially the direction you were going in and what you, studied or what you were excited about, but like the way that transformed and enhanced your career, but also the way that you, like, it opened like possibilities and new opportunities that you were willing to explore, which I guess goes back to your, like, initial comment about being open to change. Like, I feel like there's so much to say about people who are listening, who are thinking, well, that's not my training, or that's just not how I can't do that. Or that's not, that's not how we're taught. That's not how my team works. Like we're software engineers, right? Like we're not going to be running product innovation workshops. Well, right. So like, I just feel like it's inspiring to see how you were able to, be open to, I guess, learning things that are technically, black and white, out of the scope or out of the box of what you were,
it really is. Yeah, you're so true. And I just think most of the time it's down to what's the thing that you feel in your heart of hearts is the right way. And I think if you have the conviction and experience to a degree to back that up, you push that forward. Like when I joined Infinum, there wasn't really like a workshopping process as such, and now there is. And we run that every time now. Every client we have has a workshop, for example, that builds strategy and informs the roadmap and the product into the future. And that's something that I was like, I know from my heart of hearts, because I've done this with other agencies, this is the way to go. And we did that. And now we're moving into, bigger, more complex technologies that are in the ascendancies. And we, we build Infinum, for example, departments for people like Philips and Porsche, like large 50 plus teams. So we have to have something that binds everyone together and guides them. So in my mind, I'm like, what I always try and put into numbers is I think discovery, for example, discovery of a product, maybe 20% of the work or the budget, 80% is the production, but that 20% is the thing that actually guides the 80% and tries to remove the pain and the risk and all the hardships that 80% of production teams doing that good work, you know? I definitely say I don't lean into production so much these days. I'm more kind of definition and discovery, but yeah, but I think that's probably a metaphor for both product work and just life choices, right? You know, I've had a lot of good job titles in the past. Some of them were good, some of them weren't, and I've just done it and moved on. You know, like starting companies and leaving them behind can be quite painful because it's kind of part of you, or leaving behind big job titles thinking that's defines me. And then when I've left, I actually found it didn't. I'm more happier not having that big title and doing something else. I just think change is the only thing that really is consistent in life. So I'm really much, I guess you could say, an advocate of it. And I probably live that methodology by just doing what I do, right? You know, even now, just moving house back to London, you know, had a big house somewhere, sold that, moved back to London, just because I feel like the energy is the right energy for me for this time in my life. Again, it's just change, but yeah, I lean into it and it seems to somehow work out well. There's no science to it, but it just works. So yeah, that's why I look at it from a life and product perspective.
That's really powerful. I'm not, it's going to come out sounding funny, but there's got to be some good quote that you're like onto, like, because you said change is the most, is one of the only things in life that's consistent, but change in its nature is like inconsistency, right? I mean,
it is. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I just think, I don't know.
There'll be a quote. Maybe we can put it in the strapline or something after the show, but there's probably some inspirational thing about it. But yeah, I don't think there's any perfect way to weather that, but I just think being open to it and moving forward into it is the way. And if you find more about yourself and what you want in life by changing, if you don't, you just stay where you are and you maybe don't find out as much as you want to about yourself until it's probably way later or too late to do that. So yeah, I feel very fortunate. I've been able to do this varied career path in innovation for like 20 years. But yeah, it makes me sound old, doesn't it?
It's awesome. No. Okay, so 1 second. So I want to go back to the point. So we have a situation where, or I guess you've been in both situations where you've been, you know, in a more founding position where you're able to start something, you know, like from the ground up, and also coming in like being a contributor on a team to a company that's already existing. So one of the challenges that I think a lot of people find themselves in is they're already, you know, individual contributor on a team, been in the company, larger company, established, you know, SOPs and whatever processes. And, you know, they might be listening to this episode or to other podcasts that talk about product strategy and AI innovation design. And I think for a lot of people, you know, it sounds really fluffy and amazing and awesome, and they really wish they could have it on their team, but they don't really know where to start in terms of, okay, like, is there a small step that I could do to try to implement this to make my team better or to drive innovation within my department? And so for people who, I don't want to say who aren't fortunate, because I think that there's like each position has its, you know, pros and cons, but for people who feel like, you know, a little bit stuck, or who feel like they wish that they were able to, you know, implement some of these, I guess processes, but like, you know, workshop discovery type work maybe earlier on, and they haven't, and now they find themselves in a situation where, you know, the teams are struggling. Is there, you know, is there some advice or tips or guidance that you could give to people who don't have the authority maybe to make like the bigger decisions, but still have the ability to influence the teams, you know, to maybe start to bring up some of this type of conversation?
Yeah, for sure. And this goes right back to that kind of idea of being a practitioner versus a theorist. And I think everyone in their business can maybe map out what they do in the day, right? You know, SOP, like standard operating procedure. You can map out what you do in your day. Like if I run a strategy session, I can pretty much work out what I do from the initial call with the client right through to the point where we say, here's your blueprint, let's go. So there's a whole process there. And this is very interesting because this is basically answering your question. This is also something that I guess comes up quite a lot now in the kind of AI conversation. It's like, let's map, first of all, the flow of things, like the user journeys, we call it in product, right? In that space, there will be some kind of meeting, some kind of collaboration point, some kind of decision to be made. And it's kind of up to that person to say, okay, I don't have to change the entire process. I don't have to reinvent the wheel, but I could do something maybe in that process that is a different approach. For example, I was saying before about, you know, agencies I used to work in, and when I joined Infinum, they may take a brief, they may talk to engineers, they may say it's about this much money, we'll give them a quote back, and it's like, cool, that's done. But that's like trying to guess on something you only have like 30-40% of the information on. So why would you do that fully when you could get 80-90%? So like what I did when I joined Infinum was like, go, okay, we need to run workshops consistently all the time. And what it meant was like, we're not changing the development cycle, we're not changing agile working, we're not changing anything that we do is product-based driven anything. We just work a little bit differently in one process at the start. And that gives us an additional bit of knowledge that shows benefit. And that was done when we started the UK arm of the business. And that was more like, that's our MVP. And by doing that, everyone could then start to see how fast we could rapidly get things done, things documented, things defined, things visualized. And that almost then started to perpetuate outwardly, both to like other projects, but to kind of the company. And again, going back to what I was saying before, is like, rather than me just say, yeah, if you just do, whatever framework, that you can find on the internet, it'll be great. And just believe me, like, actually, let's just do the work. Let's just say, look, rather than doing this scoping call, let's just do like a mini workshop for a day or something that gives us an output. And that's something that you can start to use time and time again, and start to show your I guess, stakeholders, your colleagues, your clients, whoever it is. That's how you can start to change the dial. So it's kind of just really finding your feet and identifying where you think you can do these new types of kind of strategy or innovation processes, and just being comfortable in what you want to do as well. Like I started doing workshops, for example, by doing design sprints, which is kind of your way of, validating a product quickly and what the users want. But over time, I sort of adapted that to like marketing sprints, brands workshops. And it's like, you're just finding opportunities where you can maybe tailor something around, I guess, what we call an info product, right? So from like the AJ Smart world, it's like, if you have something that's not a physical product, like a phone or whatever, but you have a framework that achieves an outcome and probably has a cost and a time attributed, try and package things a little bit, because I think humans understand it more as well. So if you say to your colleagues, we're going to run this thing, it's called this, it's like one day, and here's all the outcomes, it's so much easier to kind of digest and get sign off. And I find for when I've been doing consultancy work back in the day, it also helps as well. Like rather than calling it a 3-day, 5-day workshop, whatever, it's like, it's a design sprint and here's the outcomes. People go, okay, I get what the outcomes are. At least the name kind of might make sense. But yeah, so I find that's the way to do it. It's just simplify things down a little bit to just find the gap, apply something that is simple for you to do, and just take the shot at doing that. And again, it'll probably work for you. I can't guarantee everything will work, but that's the point, isn't it? Like if it doesn't work for you, you've tried it, you can iterate it, you can try it somewhere else. It's back to that change thing, right? It's like you need to have some sort of level of risk to do that, but then that risk will help you learn loads. I think all the best learnings I've had has just been from trying stuff, and the things that didn't work, I'm like, man, I'm not doing that again. And it's kind of helped me climb up the happiness ladder, every time I've changed jobs, roles, companies, whatever. Yeah, and that's kind of how I find it. So yeah, I think you have to just start and find opportunity. So yeah, hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's awesome. And for those people who are listening, who, when you say workshop, can you explain a little bit what you mean when you say workshop?
For sure. So rather than having a phone call with somebody or a meeting, it's a structured way you can collaborate with one extra person up to 10 extra people, for example, that really brings together like complete alignment around a challenge or a problem, and derives hopefully a solution that's documented, visualized, and captured with clear outcomes and clear commitments to it. Because you know what it's like when you have these conversations in a meeting, it can be the loudest person or the most senior person will just say, this is what we're doing, and no one else really gets involved. So a workshop's just a really structured way to come to an agreement. And that agreement, in theory, provides the baseline to the next X amount of months going forward for the project or the product or whatever you're building. Yeah, but that workshop generally needs, ideally, a person to facilitate it. And that's kind of what I do for a living. And now, Tamar, you do that as well. And I guess it also dovetails nicely into strategy and product strategy as well, because you're kind of working at a business level with the stakeholders in the workshop. And you can also then start to build strategy around what you find in that workshop as well. So yeah, it's a tool, but it's a very powerful one.
Yeah, that's awesome. So awesome.
Cool.
That's
I'm glad you like it.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, I think they are. They're great.
Yeah. there's so much there. And even for those of you who are thinking, okay, yeah, there's not a chance that we're going to get, my team to do that or my company to do that. Start with one exercise. Like start with one, pick one meeting, pick your daily stand up. I don't know, pick something, right?
Yeah.
And like something very, very small. Like it doesn't have to be successful, only if it's, only 1 day minimum. Like it's not.
Yeah. It's worth doing because it's amazing how much misalignment you uncover by doing these things. I've been sent briefs that are like 50 pages long from clients about these great product ideas. You put them in a room together, ask some simple questions about it, and I guarantee you there'll be some misalignment immediately, which are naturally not addressed early will seep into the product build later or the project build, and that's going to cost a bunch of money, time, sadly a lot of stress on the human beings doing it. And I think that's a responsibility I see as someone who runs, say, workshops and builds strategies. You're just there to help the human beings doing the work de-risk pain and misguidance, So, and especially now as well as we are in the advent of AI as well, that's the other thing I've started to hear a lot of, like, hey, Chris, we need an AI thing. I'm like, for what? What is that for? How are you going to deliver that? We don't know yet. We're not sure what it needs to do, but we need to have something. I'm like, okay, we need to unpack this. And again, that's when a workshop becomes into play versus just a document or a conversation. It needs some like professional structuring and guidance and alignment. So yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. So glad you brought that up because, oh my goodness, no, we're totally at time, but I have to. I can't hold myself back from asking you this because this is a huge. So this is like a theme that like I've been hearing and that I've been seeing like even like within the past 2 weeks. It is unbelievable to me how many people have come out with their own GPTs, and it is wild to me how many people who generally are course creators, like usually like they're, some sort of digital creator. A lot of them do have courses and they're just like experimenting and they're coming out with their own GPTs. I don't know. I can't even tell you how many people literally in the past 2 weeks have like, hey, can you try out my new GPT? Like try this out. And every time I'm like, what do you like? I'm just curious. Like, are you just like playing around? Like, what is it for? Like what? Yeah, right. We're just, we're just trying it out. Like, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, they're like, yeah, like we spent a long time, like feeding it information and training it. I'm like, okay, you spent a lot of time. Okay. Like I start like it's like a lot of time and and I'm like, but what is the end like result? Like, what's the end goal? So you can say that you've like integrated, like you have your own GPT, like where in the world is it getting you? How is this a vehicle driving you to success?
So true.
So like,
I think people, it's big. And I think people need to really understand like AI is not the destination. It's like another human in your team trying to amplify and build a solution. You still need guidance and direction to a solution. That isn't just AI. AI is just a co-worker that works with you. And I think a lot of my conversations I have with clients on podcasts is we are allowing that the age of intelligence. We're actually in the augmented era now, so actually everyone should be utilizing some sort of AI as a co-pilot because it's there to help. It's not the end destination. And I think just to kind of link this back to strategy, I suppose to some degree, and I'm probably going to steal like Alex Mosey saying here, but everyone that I talk with from a business standpoint is like they have these infinite ideas, especially around AI and such. They have unlimited ideas, but limited resources. And that's the goal of what a strategist needs to do, is help understand what needs to be done where and when, and help them build that plan, because it is also like about direction and mission where the AI thing needs to go to, but how they get there is a whole thing. And that goes right down a layer to what we talked about at the start. Like the tech side, it was great, but the human beings need to come with that tech. So that innovation culture needs to be fostered and trained and educated. And I think a lot of people now are seeing like education and training is a key milestone or pillar alongside like the technology side of things, because you need the human beings to be able to work with that new tech. And I think if you can basically strategize, understand the technology and understand people to educate them as a triple threat, skill set, you've got an amazing career ahead, because you can just use it anywhere in the world, any company, because everyone will need that regardless, So it's big. I'm excited about it. But yeah, we probably need another hour to talk about that. in deep detail.
Yeah, no, but it's a really important, like, I feel like it's a really important thing that people are just blindly like jumping into and following, like just doing what everyone else is doing because it's a cool thing, or it's like the in thing, or they have to have it. But it's like how you were saying, it's like, why, for what, what's the end result, how does this align with your greater business objective goal? And it's like when they don't know, I'm like, like it's very interesting.
It's prevalent. I think we have to just, be realistic that we've kind of had analog back in the day. We've had digitals here, but it's kind of phasing out. We're now in the kind of autonomous age, and it's like every consultant, company, agency has to have some level of like automation style tooling. I wouldn't say they need to be just about that, but I think it's going to be the unfair advantage you'll have as a person, whatever configuration you are as a worker, against the competition out there. So I'm bullish about it as a tool, much like I am workshops and strategy. I think all of them together is what will define companies winning and losing over the next 10 years.
For sure. And maybe the next episode we do will be around how to use it responsibly, and like just like the basics of like what is, like, for example, the creation of personal GPTs. It's like just doing like a discovery, even just like a mini discovery workshop. It's like, why does like all these like individual solopreneurs who are like creating these GPTs, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I don't have anything. I mean, I think it's great. Like, I agree. Like, people need to be, with the times, but I also do wonder, like, the same way that there are, 100 million gurus out there who claim to, have the #1 framework that will make you $1 million in 24 hours. I do wonder, how many people are jumping into, for example, creating their own custom GPTs without, even thinking through why they're doing it, what they're doing it for, who they're doing it for, how it could be utilized, how it aligns with their business objective goals, like just like the basics. It's just like, everyone's telling me to do this. AI is here. It's here to stay. I'm doing this now. Like, like.
Yeah, and you're right. And to probably link it back to everything we spoke about today, like, it has to start with strategy. It has to. Like, that strategy isn't just about user journeys and technology kind of MVPs. It's about ethics. It's about data security, data integrity as well. When you turn these things on, it's not like a product life cycle that kind of starts, peaks, and sort of dies. It's circular. It goes on and on. So there's a massive responsibility for human beings, whether they are the CEOs of the company or head of product. When you use these tools, there's more than just, user retention and all the classic metrics. It's now a lot more about safety and data integrity and people's privacy. And that's what all has to be baked into the strategy process at the start. I would say, like, I'm an engineer by trade. I'm probably a terrible engineer now because I haven't built things with like coding or anything for a long time, but I'm more focused on the importance at the start. The start of the journey will help define everything along that whole multiple months and years. And I think that has to be done right. And I'm very much passionate that is the key to, safely deploying these new tools in this kind of autonomous future age.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's a great topic. I'm like,
no. We can do a part 2. Yeah, there's so much more to unpack. But as you can see, it's all right, it's in everything. Strategy is everything. It's in everything. You can't escape it. So yeah,
absolutely. Okay, well, like I said, we're gonna have to do part 2, but I really, really, really enjoyed. Thank you so much. For those people who are listening who want to get in touch with you and connect with you, what is the best place for them to find you and connect?
I'd probably say LinkedIn is my main place to be. So, LinkedIn.com/in/Chris Bradshaw AI. Very original, but yeah, you find me under Chris Bradshaw. Look for the guy with AI stuff all over his profile. But yeah, connect there.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so everyone, you can go onto LinkedIn and reach out to Chris. Let him know what you learned from this episode, how much you've enjoyed it. Ask him all your questions.
Absolutely. And of course, if you need any kind of like technology-based support, AI support, we've obviously got a bunch of stuff at Infinum.com as well. There's loads of free white papers there. Feel free to check that out as well.
Awesome. Yeah, no, Chris is really like, he's the one. I have to say, Chris has helped me so much, not only like professionally, but like just personally, like, personally, professionally. Just really like, he's a great person to connect with, great person to know. So definitely reach out. Don't be shy. Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. And thank you again, Chris. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us and share your expertise and knowledge. And
pleasure.
Yeah, we'll see you for part 2.
Thanks so much. Take care. See you soon.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, please be sure to check out our awesome community where you can connect with podcast guests, like-minded professionals, and be surrounded by others excited by your success. Keep pushing for impact and unlocking unstoppable growth. See you in the community.